Imagine earning the highest military honor your country can give, only to have it taken away, not because you did anything wrong, but because history decided you did not fit the image of a hero. Imagine saving lives on bloody battlefields, being captured by the enemy, enduring prison camps, and still being told you did not belong. This is not a fictional story. This is the real life of Mary Edwards Walker, a woman who served her nation with courage and brilliance, yet spent most of her life fighting not just war, but erasure. On Legends Without Applause, this is exactly the kind of story we tell, and today we are bringing her out of the shadows. Mary Edwards Walker was born in 1832 in upstate New York, in a time when society had very clear expectations for women, and almost none of them involved medicine, military service, or independence. But Mary was raised differently. Her parents believed strongly in education, equality, and free thinking. They dressed their daughters practically instead of forcing them into restrictive clothing, and they taught Mary that her mind mattered just as much as any man's. Those early lessons would shape everything she became. From a young age, Mary showed a sharp intellect and an independent streak that made others uncomfortable. She did not accept rules simply because they had always existed. When she decided she wanted to become a doctor, people laughed. Medicine was considered a man's world, and surgery was especially brutal work that society believed women were too weak to handle. Mary ignored all of it. She enrolled in medical school and graduated in 1855, becoming one of the very few female physicians in the United States at the time. Even with her degree, life was not easy. Many patients refused to be treated by a woman. Hospitals were reluctant to hire her. Still, she persisted, opening a practice and advocating for public health, hygiene, and women's rights. She also challenged social norms by wearing practical clothing, including trousers, which was considered scandalous. For Mary, clothing was not about rebellion for attention. It was about freedom, efficiency, and refusing to let tradition limit her ability to work. Then came the American Civil War, and everything changed. When the war broke out in 1861, Mary Edwards Walker immediately volunteered her services to the Union Army. She wanted to serve as a surgeon, the same role as male doctors. The Army refused. Women were not allowed to be commissioned surgeons. Instead, she was offered work as a nurse, a role she rejected. Mary did not spend years studying medicine to be sidelined. She believed soldiers deserved the best care possible, regardless of who provided it. Rather than accept rejection, Mary went directly to the battlefield as a volunteer civilian surgeon. She treated wounded soldiers near the front lines, often under fire, performing amputations, treating infections, and doing whatever was necessary to save lives. Battlefield medicine during the Civil War was horrific. There was little understanding of germs, limited anesthesia, and overwhelming numbers of wounded men. Surgeons worked non-stop, surrounded by blood, pain, and death. Mary did this work not for recognition, but because people needed her. Eventually, her skill became impossible to ignore. The Union Army contracted her as an acting assistant surgeon, making her the first woman to serve in that role. She wore a modified military uniform, not as a statement, but because it made sense for her work. She traveled to dangerous areas, treated civilians and soldiers alike, and crossed enemy lines to provide care. That decision would cost her dearly. In 1864, Mary Edwards Walker was captured by Confederate forces while treating wounded civilians. She was accused of being a spy and sent to a Confederate prison. Conditions were brutal. Food was scarce, sanitation was poor, and disease was rampant. Mary endured months of imprisonment before being released in a prisoner exchange. She returned weakened but unbroken and went right back to work. After the war, the Union government recognized her extraordinary service. In 1865, Mary Edwards Walker was awarded the Medal of Honor by President Andrew Johnson. It was the highest recognition for bravery and service. At that moment, she became the first woman to receive it, and to this day, she remains the only woman ever awarded the Medal of Honor. You would think that would be the end of the struggle. it was not. Mary continued to live exactly as she always had, outspoken, independent, and unwilling to conform. She lectured on women's rights, healthcare reform, and dress reform. She wore her Medal of Honor every day, proudly, but society remained uncomfortable with her. She did not fit the image of a quiet, grateful woman. She did not fade into the background. Decades later, in 1917, long after the Civil War had ended, the United States government decided to review Medal of Honor recipients and tighten the criteria. Without consulting Mary, without considering the context of her service, the Army stripped her of the Medal of Honor. The reason given was that she was a civilian contractor, not a commissioned officer, even though thousands of men in similar positions kept their medals. Mary was in her 80s when this happened. She was ordered to return the medal. She refused. Mary Edwards Walker continued to wear her Medal of Honor every single day until she died in 1919. She did not argue loudly. She did not beg. She simply refused to accept an injustice. For her, the medal represented lives saved, suffering eased, and duty fulfilled. No committee could erase that. For 60 years after her death, her name remained largely absent from mainstream history. Her medal was officially revoked. Her service was minimized. She became a footnote instead of a chapter, another legend without applause. Then, finally, in 1977, more than half a century after her death, the United States government corrected its mistake. President Jimmy Carter restored Mary Edwards Walker's Medal of Honor posthumously. Her bravery was officially recognized once again. The only woman to ever receive the Medal of Honor had her honor returned, though far too late for her to see it. Mary's story is not just about war. It is about who gets remembered and who gets erased. It is about how institutions reward conformity more easily than courage. Mary did everything her country asked of her and more. She saved lives under fire. She endured captivity. She served without pay for long periods. Yet her greatest battle was against a system that could not accept a woman who refused to shrink herself. She did not lead troops into battle, but she walked directly into suffering when others turned away. She did not fire a weapon, but her hands fought death every day. Her courage was steady, practical, and deeply human. Mary Edwards Walker forces us to rethink what heroism looks like. It is not always loud. It is not always celebrated. Sometimes it looks like showing up when you are told you do not belong, doing the work anyway, and refusing to apologize for your existence. She died in 1919, poor, largely forgotten, and still wearing her Medal of Honor. No grand funeral, no national mourning, just quiet dignity. And yet her legacy endures. Every woman in the military today walks a path Mary helped carve. Every female doctor in a combat zone stands on ground she once defended alone. Her life reminds us that progress often begins with people who are willing to be uncomfortable, misunderstood, and isolated. This is why Mary Edwards Walker belongs on Legends Without Applause. She served her nation when it needed her most. She broke barriers without asking permission. She paid the price of being ahead of her time. And even when history tried to take her honor away, she held on to it with quiet defiance. Mary Edwards Walker was not looking for applause. She was looking to serve. And that is exactly what she did.